Hello and welcome. My name is Tim McCracken, founder of Crypto Academy World. Today's crypto insight is quite detailed and very lengthy. It's an absolutely brilliant production by Bitcoin Swan, who we've just done a recent rating. Outstanding channel. What they're discussing is how now many corporations are following strategy Michael Saylor into the Bitcoin Reserve Fund. What they are doing here is really breaking new ground, and GameStop, which is very, very famous for the short squeeze that we all know about, is now going to be the first disciple entering into the same realm as Michael Saylor and strategy. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. Please watch the entire video. It's incredibly informative, and I'll see you at the end.
Meme stock. Everyone's favorite meme stock, the original OG meme stock, you might say, has now merged the worlds of Wall Street bets and meme stocks and Bitcoin, which I would have to imagine will be proven to be a formidable force. So let's kick it off with Ben, who is the expert on the subject matter. Here's Saylor tweeting, "Let the game begin." It was a $1.3 billion raise to buy Bitcoin. Ben, who's the overview?
It's 1.3 billion for now. And we'll see if they take that off, then it's probably closer to 1.5 billion. We've been waiting for this one for a while. It seemed to make all the sense in the world. I mean, people were talking about which company did they think had the best opportunity to run a MicroStrategy playbook to reinvent themselves. The first answer always that GameStop. They took advantage of the last craze and they really capitalized that company again. And they were sitting on all this cash. It seemed like such a no-brainer to prevent it going on this path and really, really ignite this company. I think they're going to do it. But most interesting, but probably about this entire story is getting the retail base over that. MicroStrategy on its own has grown this really huge retail model, which keeps them out there in the media, keeps them in the news cycle, and this rabid fan base, which I'm included in, that follow every move that they make. And when you get that type of support out of the retail base, it does something different directly than you see in any of the others. Now you're taking that rabid fan base and combining it with the geo meetings. I mean, all the guys that have been in that trade forever. And I think this is going to reignite them because they had gotten to a point where the trade had changed so drastically, right? It's no longer this company that had this greater than 100% short interest, right? Going down, I think their short interest is like 7.2% at the moment. Like the short squeeze narrative is over. It's time for a massive reinvention. But what a way to make a splash. To go and announce the Bitcoin treasury after all the T's and Ryan going to done. And it initially confused a lot. Indeed, I had to think about it for a little bit. When the first move I saw them make was to go out and launch a convertible bond. They're sitting on $4.7 billion in cash right now. I think that confused a lot of people, but it actually makes an absolute ton of sense if you look at the setup for a company like MicroStrategy. If they're serious about running the playbook, what they want is they want to get their balance sheet, their leveraged position against Bitcoin somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. So if you go and you run the numbers on if they converted their cash balances to Bitcoin, plus they use these convertible bond funds into Bitcoin, it puts them at a leverage ratio of about 31%. So they'd be sitting in just the perfect area to generate that volatility of the equity, which they've been known for in the past. It's going to be the welcome refresh for all the people that are rabid fans of the company. So I think it's an amazing move. And I think that it's the right type of business that you take the strategy, you reinvent yourself, and you show your shareholders that they focus on another way to generate value for them.
Is this about the right size that the market was expecting?
So if they were doing that math, it would be. I think that everyone's waiting for the cash purchases, quite frankly, right? I think they want $1 billion plus, so it feels right. And even Saylor retweeted something that someone said asking what was the right size for them to buy, and they said at least $1 billion, right, as a starting point, and they've exceeded that. If they get up to 1.5 billion, that's a pretty significant entrance into the market, particularly when you figure that the next closest to MicroStrategy is Marathon. And I think they're at 46,000 Bitcoin, somewhere around there. And so GameStop has the potential here with their cash balances and the money that they're raising to put themselves into that second place slot. And that's a pretty high visibility spot to put your company in. So I think it's a pretty good strategic move for GameStop here.
I think the market is still waiting for GME to actually do it. I think because if you read it, it says we're raising for general corporate purposes and we might buy Bitcoin. I'm not saying they're not going to deploy most of it in Bitcoin, but it seems like there's some way you can read it where you don't actually know if they're putting that whole amount in. And I think there's a higher degree of skepticism on GameStop than like on Saylor. When it's Saylor, you know what's going to happen. This is their first time, and I do think people that are outside of the Bitcoin space that haven't seen this are still like, let's see them actually do it, let's see them close it, let's see them issue it, let's see them actually deploy that into Bitcoin, because that hasn't happened yet. And I think you're not going to really see the full impact of this event until it is actually finalized and done. I think there's a lot of disbelief.
And I'm one of the people that falls into that camp. I've been saying that as well. I'm to the point with a lot of the treasury companies where we're in the show me phase now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that like to talk about it. It does generate a lot of buzz around for equity. People are wondering what you're going to do, but you want to see the execution. And the thing that makes Saylor so unique, and he says it himself, is that he tries to establish trust in the markets by telling you exactly what he's going to do. He's never going to hedge. He's going to do everything he says. And when he gets money, you know where it's going. We don't know that yet with GameStop. Now, that wording is a very general wording that goes in these offerings, even MicroStrategy has it. The difference is Ryan Cohen isn't out here doing the media cycle.
Right.
We're buying Bitcoin, we're getting as much of it as we can. This is the new direction. And I think that's what the market's ultimately going to want, to become believers that this is a transformation. This is the next evolution of how they're going to reignite this company. And they've got an interesting value proposition. When I pulled up their last 10K, they've got like $145 million cash flow from operations, and that's just under 3 times what MicroStrategy has. Now, MicroStrategy has scale at this point. They've achieved the state velocity that you're not going to catch them.
Yeah.
But compared to all the other companies that are launching this right now, that's significant scale to continue to be able to make acquisitions in the space. And you've got cash flow that can support that, even if you end up needing some either coupon payments on the bonds, or if they want preferred equity and dividend associated with that, they do have some cash flow that gives them flexibility to move in the market. So they're a unique one to watch, and they're going to pique a lot of people's interest by making this move. But I think you're absolutely right. It's the first purchase announcement.
Yeah.
That's gonna really ignite the enthusiasm.
Correct. Because you just can't fully believe it yet.
Real quick, Steve, this is like the situation with the strategic reserve,
I
right?
was just about to say,
Yeah.
I think in both of these categories, you have what would be these huge and extremely material shifts in the market. But I'll tell you, people just do not actually believe it, and they're not going to believe it until the buys come. Now, in both of these scenarios, I would give you 80% plus odds that GameStop is going to buy the Bitcoin, and also that the SBR is going to make purchases, right? So I think both of these scenarios are very likely, and it's correct to be quite bullish on them. But I think for so many people and investors in the market, Bitcoin is so out of left field. They don't follow it closely. They don't know these treasury company stories, and they don't know how to make sense of it, and they won't make sense of it until it's actually happening. And then with GameStop, there's the added question of what Ben said. First of all, of that 1.3 or 1.5 billion, do they buy 1.2 billion in Bitcoin, or do they use it to raise cash for the corporation? Again, I don't think that's likely, but I think most of that money comes in and buys, right? But then there's this added question of, are you going to commit? Are you going to keep doing it? Are you going to keep buying it? Are you going to deploy the cash? Are you going to do the ATMs? Are you going to do the converts? Or is this like a one-time thing? And also, if your stock falls on hard times, are you going to sell the Bitcoin? Are you gonna be holding this for the long term? We don't know that yet. Now, I think there's reason to be generally optimistic from the outside. He's been meeting with Saylor. He obviously has been having this conversation. I'm sure Saylor has been very clear that, look, you need to do this thing if you're going to do this thing. And they're very well positioned to benefit from that. But we still just have to see that play out.
And the businesses have a lot of similarities to them in terms of the trajectory that they were in. Right now, you've got GameStop kind of turning into that zombie. They had that brick and mortar business, but how long is that for this world? They're hitting that point where you're at this inflection. And if you don't have a good transformation opportunity in front of you to reinvent your business organically, then you're essentially building a war chest for when you figure that out. I think that's kind of how they're looking at this. Now, it's all speculation. We haven't heard Ryan Cohen come out and give his direct view on Bitcoin. Is he a true believer in this like Saylor? No one's going to question Saylor's belief in holding Bitcoin as an asset for your company. He's very clear about it. He's been one of the ones pushing that harder than anybody. We don't know that answer yet. for Brian Cohen. And I think that coming out and engaging that investor base is going to be really important for him to build that trust with the investing community, that we can believe in what he's doing here, that there is a vision and it's not just a one-time attempt to gain headlines, right?
Correct.
Yeah, MicroStrategy was in a similar situation. They were, Saylor talked about this, they were facing a choice. It was like die a slow death because they weren't growing anymore, or take a chance and plow all the cash reserves into this new store of value assets and just take a chance. And of course, Saylor, like a proper maxi, ends up going all in and leveraging everything, just buying as much as possible. So the idea here that Steven tweeted as interesting. So we're currently at the stage where companies which cannot grow by Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy, like GameStop, as we've been discussing, soon we will be at the stage where companies that can grow by Bitcoin. But that was a good insight on this topic.
Has anyone seen the breakdown? Have they said how much of the 1.3, right? Or maybe higher. 1.3 is the headline number. I did see that they say this thing, which is very common when you issue debt, GCP, general corporate purposes. So they said it's for GCP in addition to buying Bitcoin. Did you guys happen to see if they said, don't worry guys, most of this is going to be used to buy Bitcoin? Or is there some chance here that they're going to be like, oh, actually just for now it's 100 million Bitcoin and the rest is GCP? That's on the table as far as you guys know?
It's technically possible, but I think like that would basically be rubbing the convertible note investors. And I think there would have to be some of those discussions behind the scenes. Like if you're buying this convertible bond, like that, I'd love your thoughts on this after if you disagree, but like you have to think it's mostly going into Bitcoin. And if they just raise money for free, for zero, to just spend the money like that, I have to think there's nothing in it on paper that would confirm it, but I have to think that would be not good.
When you're sitting on $4.7 billion of cash as it stands,
Yeah.
you don't really need the 1.3 for general corporate purposes because you've already got 4.7 for general corporate purposes. So I think while that's standard language in these convertibles, I think that you have to read into this one based on the terms they saw. The structure of this is almost identical to the last raise that MicroStrategy did. They got a slightly higher premium. I think their premium here is 37.5%. I think MicroStrategy got 35 on the last one. It's got the same 130% early conversion triggers in there. It's structured exactly the way we're seeing the MicroStrategy bonds being structured. So it would severely confuse me if they did anything with this money other than buy Bitcoin. I would have a really hard time justifying why they could go to the market, raise this money just to put more in the bank account. I think that it goes 100% to Bitcoin. That's my working belief at the moment.
And I agree. I just think there's this moment in time where there's uncertainty.
I'll just offer one other point, which is if and when GameStop does convert most or all of this to Bitcoin, I will just remind everyone that there will be a lot of TradFi people out there who this does nothing for them. And actually, if anything, I'm talking about the TradFi Bitcoin haters, this like further entrenches their view that Bitcoin's a joke because they view GameStop as violating all of their TradFi investing principles for the last 5 years. Meme stocks are not supposed to exist, but you didn't read The Intelligent Investor, this can't happen. And now look, they're just buying Bitcoin. This validates that Bitcoin is a joke. Just get ready for those takes because they're definitely going to be out there in the traditional financial media.
Here's another thing for people to think about. So all the GameStop trades in the past have been this rally against traditional finance and hedge funds. Now you just became partners, right? So that investing community is going to have to grapple with that one because their whole battle cry has been going against the hedge funds and bringing down the traditional finance institutions. When you get into this type of a strategy, you're partners now. So that one's going to have to take a while to sit with them and digest.
Absolutely. You run into this constantly in the Bitcoin story where it's like, Bitcoin's only for criminals. Oh, Bitcoin's only for libertarians. Oh, Bitcoin's only for this or that. Where we're at right now is, oh, Bitcoin's just for public companies with declining revenues facing growth headwinds. So, oh, okay, I guess that's where we are now. It was just like criminals before. And I agree with them. Like you get aligned with a group of very passionate investors that like all get a worms filled basically once the stock starts doing well. Literally the second GameStop starts going up because of a Bitcoin strategy, guess what? All of those people love Bitcoin. It's done.
Well, and it's the volatility that it brings, right? They haven't had that volatility in GameStop for a while now. And when you're a trader, you love having the volatility. It just
Yeah.
reignites the options market. People are making money. They can get back to their covered call sellings. They've got all their exotic strategies where they're stacking all these different options against each other. It becomes this instrument where people are back to where they can make money using their strategies. And that draws in a ton of attention. People become fans just for that. It's the reason why Mike